a power move. Battle for the lead now. Tightens up in turn 3.
He'll dive to the bottom. He's going for the lead.
Hard, strong power move to the bottom of the racetrack.
Now, this week's edition of Pistol Pete's Power Rankings.
Atlanta Motor Speedway hosted the Cup Series on Sunday, and after the Ambetter Health 400, here's a look at the power rankings. One driver from last week's top 10 has dropped out, and that driver's name is Daniel Suarez. So we have a new face inside the top 10. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you so much. Daniel Suarez is out, so a new face is in. Let's start in the number 10 position. And it's the driver who was 5th a week ago, so 5 spots down for Alex Bowman, who had a quiet and non-eventful day. Really wasn't in the mix for the lead at all on Sunday. But I guess the good news is the Hendrick Motorsports driver brought that number 48 Chevrolet home to a 15th place finish at Atlanta. Now remember, he is 20th in the standings because of the penalty that was assessed last week, and we'll see how that plays out with the appeal. But a quiet day for Alex Bowman. Without his regular crew chief, obviously, as a Hendrick Motorsports driver, he's number 10 in the power rankings, Baggy.
Yes, Gregory Ives back on top of the War Wagon this past weekend. Yeah, I was looking more from the 48 bunch. Didn't get that. Now, he's running the truck race at COTA, and we'll see what he can do on the road course element coming up this weekend. But, yeah, I was surprised that the 48 wasn't up in the mix. So, good call there. Yeah.
Thank you. Are you over the Daniel Suarez being dropped out? Because you took that hard.
I moved on.
Right.
I moved on.
All right. We'll move to number 9. Last week he was number 10, so he's up 1 spot, and it is Denny Hamlin, who had his Toyota near the front of the field, but he got bogged down there in traffic at the end, couldn't make a run in the race to the checkered flag. He did lead 14 laps, and he wound up coming home 6th. So, again, not a terrible day for Denny Hamlin, and he was near the front of the field, but still trying to find his way to victory lane this year, Mike.
What do you make about this roller coaster that they seem to be on? Not just the Toyotas, JGR, but he's been up and down. 17th at Daytona, 6th at Fontana, 11th at Vegas, 23rd at Phoenix, 6th at Atlanta. It just seems they can't get on that one consistent plane that we're used to seeing those Toyotas on.
No, and when you heard what Paul Wolf just told us on the Logano side, is a kind of a similar take here for Denny Hamlin and Chris Gabehart. I guess the good news is he's been nearer the front of the field more often than not, but just not finding a way to get over that hump, if you will, out of the top 5 and to the top 2 or even the victory lane. So he's number 9 this week here in the power rankings. Let's go to number 8, and this is the same spot as he was a week ago, the number 8 position. He's 3rd in the NASCAR Cup Series point standings, and it is Ross Chastain. He finished outside the top 10 for the first time now in his Cup career since they reconfigured Atlanta Motor Speedway, 13th place. But obviously came in some controversy as he was very close to Kevin Harvick when a multi-car accident was triggered. Replay showed Ross didn't make contact with Kevin. But bottom line is, 3rd in the point standings, just outside the top 10. Not terrible, but still waiting for Trackhouse to get a little bit more to the front of the field like we saw them a lot last year, Mike.
Well, I thought that Ross had a shot at it, and Sammy, you missed this on Friday. I had a fit of anger on the air because in the middle of the pick segment, you were going to deliver your pick, and I just knew that nobody was going to touch Ross on Sunday. And then here comes Davey in with Sammy picked Ross, and I tried to pull away from the mic, forgetting that my earbuds were attached. Microphone went flying. There was
my God. It was unbelievable.
There was a moment it was very challenging. I'm glad, though. I'm glad now, but I was going the Ross route, and he was in it for a while, but then at the end, he ended up finishing outside of the top 10. I was surprised, though. I thought he would have finished closer to the front. 2 second-place finishes last year in Atlanta. I thought he had another one in him, but it didn't work out on Sunday.
Yeah, so we'll keep him number 8 in the power rankings. Let's move to number 7, and this is the new face that displaced Daniel Suarez. He's 5th in the standings, and it is Brad Keselowski, and by far strongest run of the season for Keselowski. He's led a lot of laps in the early going. He's led every race this year at least 1 lap. He had 47 laps at the front of the field on Sunday. And, of course, thrilling duel with Joey Logano down the stretch there. Came up just a little short. So Brad gets a second-place finish. So he races his way into the power rankings, and we'll see if he can build on that with a very good run Sunday there in Atlanta, Mike.
And here's a fun fact for you Brad Keselowski fans. By the way, first of all, the storm's coming on the 6th. I feel it. He has the most, he and one other driver have the most stage top 10s with 8. Denny is the other. But Brad has led a lap in all 5 races so far. So Brad is entering the mix, obviously, on the racetrack, but he's also entering the mix in your power rankings as well. Very much welcome for old Bradley, sitting there in position number 7.
Well, let's see if he goes up those rankings next week. He is number 7 this week. We'll go to number 6. Down a few spots for this guy. He was second last week. It's Kyle Larson. And obviously, he was just an innocent bystander there. Wrong place, wrong time, and Eric Almirola had a tire go down. He slid right in front of Larson. He had nowhere to go, and that ended Kyle's day. Left Atlanta with a 31st place finish. He's 9th in the standings. I think we're at the point now where Kyle Larson needs some good luck. He's had some pretty good race cars, Mike, but doesn't have a win yet to show for it.
I thought that was going to be the day on Sunday. Up towards the front, and he was frustrated after the race that he can't seem to find himself up front at the end of these races, and he came close to doing it and then just got swept up. That, to me, has got to be a bitter pill to swallow when you had a good car, you had the speed, something happens in front of you, and you're swept up in the middle of it. And I felt bad for him on Sunday.
Absolutely did. So we'll put him number 6 in the power rankings this week, which takes us up to the top 5.
Number 5.
And Harvick gets sideways. He's spinning off turn 2. 3, 4 cars involved. The big one happens off turn 2 here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. A host of cars involved. Chris Buescher gets a lot of damage on his number 17 as he spins down to the inside of the racetrack. B.J. McLeod is also collected in that. And Kyle Busch in his Lenovo Chevrolet gets a piece of it. And Harrison Burton also in that tangle off of turn 2.
All right, there's some of the PRN call you heard Sunday here on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio describing the guy who was number 3 last week in the power rankings. We're going to slide him down to number 5. This week it's Kevin Harvick, and as you heard, he was involved with that to some controversial incident with Ross Chastain behind him. Ross didn't make contact, but that didn't stop Kevin from sliding and triggering a multi-car crash. When it was all said and done, 33rd on Sunday for Kevin Harvick, 6th in the point standings, but what might have been for Kevin because he had a really good car on Sunday.
That sent a lot of fantasy teams, a lot of picks into turmoil there when that happened. It looked like Kevin was going to have a good run. At least he stays in the top 5 with the power rankings, 33rd on Sunday. Hope they can rebound, but man, I thought that Kevin was going to get that first Ford win on Sunday. Just was not meant to be.
Kevin Harvick, number 5 in the power rankings.
Number 4.
Kyle Busch also being scored -2 along with Martin Truex Jr. And Mark, they had clean pit stops, so we know you can be in that lead pack. If you have to pit under the green, you are going to lose 2 laps. We can't impress on our listeners enough. If they're not familiar, they are literally starting this pit stop at the entrance of turn 3 and dropping down on the pit road and creeping around at 45 miles an hour.
All right, Doug Rice discussing some of the day Sunday at Atlanta for the guy who was number 4 last week in the power rankings. We're going to keep him in the same spot this week. That is Kyle Busch, who I would say just had sort of a workmanlike day, stayed out of trouble, a 10th place finish. He did lead 17 laps, so he was at the front of the field some, but it really wasn't meant to be outside of a top 10. 7th in the point standings. Not a bad day at all for Kyle Busch in the 18, Mike.
Yeah, it was just one of those average days, although they have been in the top 10 3 of the last 4 races, including the win at Fontana. So I would say, yeah, I mean, consistency down the middle of the fairway, nothing spectacular, but nothing to, hang their heads about either.
All right, so Kyle Busch comes in at number 4.
Number 3.
3, Christopher Bell.
Thank you, Davey.
But we didn't have a cut from the race, so we thought we'd have something for Christopher. He was number 9 last week. Big jump for C. Bell, all the way up to number 3 this week. By far, one of the strongest Toyotas of the day. That was Bell in the JGR number 20. Dicing for position there in those wild closing laps. Gave Joey Logano a huge bump and shove that helped Joey. And at the end of it all, it was a 3rd place finish for Christopher Bell, who, Mike, is up to 2nd now in the NASCAR Cup Series point standings.
If it wasn't for getting involved in that crash at Fontana that ended his day and finished 32nd, pretty sure he'd be sitting here with 5 top 10s. He's got 4, and they're on a roll. I mean, that's Sammy's guy. It started last fall. It continues into this year. 5th, 6th, and 3rd in their last 3. C-Bell, in my opinion, the best car at JGR right now, and obviously 2nd in the point standings behind Joey. Watch out for C-Bell coming up here. A win is imminent. Question is, where does it come?
I think it'll come sooner rather than later. I agree with you. He is number 3 in the power rankings.
Number 2.
Our defending winner, William Byron, is taking his car to the garage area after being involved in that incident as he makes his way slowly along, has taken the left-hand turn, gone behind pit wall.
Yeah, the guy who actually was my Monday headline today on Friday, March Sadness, that did apply to the guy who was trying for his third straight win and second straight at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the spring race indeed. William Byron, as you heard Mark Garrow discuss, he was the victim of an accident on lap 192, so he really never had a chance to try to get another win there. And again, with the point penalty, all the way down 28th in the point standings, but we're going to take him out of the top spot, number 2 in the power rankings.
Yeah, that was a bad day for Willie B. Wrong place, wrong time. Won't know what he had, but he's able to hang on, coming off of 2 consecutive wins, 32nd. Ugh. They are looking for a rebound, obviously, this weekend as well.
They are. So William Byron goes from number 1 to number 2, which means there is a brand new face at the top of the mountain.
Number 1.
Logano is racing his way out next to the wall, side by side with Brad Keselowski. This is for the win as they dive into turn 3. Logano is out front. Can he hold off Keselowski? This is Logano leading.
Joey Logano leads off of turn 4, and Joey Logano will win the Ambetter Health 400 by 2 car lengths.
There it is, the PRN race-winning call that you heard on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Joey Logano, who was 7th last week in the power rankings, he's going to move up to number 1 after a day that saw him dominate most of the day. But until that battle at the end there with Brad Keselowski went his way, Joey Logano gets his first win of the season, his first win at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and he is on top of both the power rankings and the NASCAR Cup Series point standings.
Totally makes sense. First Ford to win this year. Joey Logano winning over the weekend. They are on a roll right now. We'll see if they can continue that forward progress into COTA this weekend. We just chatted with crew chief Paul Wolf. If you missed that chat, you can hear it on the SXM app coming up, included with all of our trials and popular plans, and that is Pistol Pete's Power Rankings. You can catch those on the SXM Sports blog. Any consternation there? Anything to give you a little heartburn when you were making these?
Well, the only guy that I did wrestle with who didn't make it, but people ask me all the time, like, who would be number 11? Ryan Blaney. I thought Blaney deserves some consideration, Mike, to race into the top 10. There wasn't anybody else outside of Daniel Suarez who didn't have a good day that I felt could take out. But I think the way I have them, I'm comfortable with. And we'll see if Blaney, with a good run on Sunday, maybe at COTA, maybe he can race his way into these power rankings. He's right on the cusp of the way he came back with the pit road speeding penalty Sunday in Atlanta.
2 things on the table right now. Tuesday takeaways from Atlanta and also Pistol Pete's Power Rankings. 866 Pit Lane. Your thoughts coming up. Chase Purdy on the way at the top of the hour.